Greetings and welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of UC Weekly News. I'm your host, as always, David Danto, and I have an expert in Zoom on, and you can't say that about too many people, but in this case you can. Patrick Kelley with Zoom. Patrick, introduce yourself. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
I'm Patrick Kelley. I am a distinguished architect here at Zoom. By the way, that is the coolest title here at Zoom. I've had it for about 4.5 years. I work in our product team and our competitive intelligence team, and I've been here for 4.5 years. But prior to that, I actually worked at Microsoft for 12 years as well. I've been in the UC space for about 30 years. Well, I guess shows all my gray hair.
Wow. Yeah, well, you're part of the club. I don't bother coloring the top. I do color the beard, so people see it different colors. I apologize for that.
Yeah.
And I just announced on the show last week that I realized I'm having my 46th anniversary being in the industry in September this year when we're at the CEDIA and Commercial Integrator Expo in Denver. So if you didn't watch last week's show, please go and watch it because it's got all the links to register and everything else. But so after 30 years, I think you've learned a little bit about collaboration and communication, right? Not. I'll call you a distinguished expert because that's your title, but you kind of know your way around this stuff, right?
You know what? 30 years ago, we thought collaboration and communication involved email, maybe sending some documents and then we graduated to voice, and then we graduated to video, and now we're graduating to chat. It's a learning process, and it's an evolving organically process. And now we incorporate all these things into what we call collaboration and communication. And so, yeah, over the course of time, you better be pretty dynamic in what you're learning and what you're teaching. That's for sure.
Yep. So we use Zoom. We're using Zoom now. I use it almost all the time for recording and for calling, and all the different platforms that compete with Zoom. They all have their good qualities and their bad qualities, including Zoom. But a lot of people see Zoom as a standalone video calling product. And that's probably one of, I don't know, hundreds of things that you do with Zoom. There are very popular ones like, phone and events and contact center, which is new. And there are a lot of little features, and there's an app store and the rest of it. And a lot of what you do in Zoom is not competing with these other platforms. It's complementary with them. So can you give us a little bit of an example about, how people might want to change their view of what Zoom is as opposed to just, calling grandma or attending a church service?
When I first started at Zoom, they gave us a bunch of Zoom swag, right? It was about 5 years ago, and I would wear my Zoom shirt to the grocery store, and Grandma and Billy from second grade was like, "Oh my God, I love your Zoom meetings." I'm like, I was very proud. I'm like, "I'm glad you love those Zoom meetings. They're fantastic." And now when I wear my Zoom shirt to the grocery store, and I get the same comment of, "Hey, did we really love your Zoom meetings?" I'm like, well, great, but did you know we have phone and rooms and webinar and contact center and digital signage and workplace reservations? We have so much more to offer than just meetings today. Even though we're a best-in-class meetings platform, we do a lot more than that. And that's really where we're trying to get the word out that Zoom is now a collaboration and communications and AI platform. We're well beyond just a meetings UCAS application now today.
Yeah, and it was interesting. Obviously Zoom went through the roof in terms of the pandemic, in terms of valuation and knowledge and everything. And then when we finally got in stages of the pandemic, a lot of people reported how Zoom was down, how the stock was down, how usage was down. They weren't paying attention. That was all the free people that were just using it during the pandemic. The other part, the corporate users, the business users, that has continued to rise, and that's where you make your money, obviously.
Well, obviously, when we started, right, the first 10 years as Zoom was organically growing in the enterprise space, we were an enterprise application. We were designed for that. But then the pandemic hit, and this enterprise application turned into a consumer application, right, and everyone knew it for that reason. And that's great. Well, of course, we love our consumer models, but we've continued to try to grow in the enterprise space. And that's really where we're putting a lot of our innovation and our platform growth. And so, yes, absolutely correct, is that we are a enterprise platform, and we're designed to do that. But we're so easy to use. Just again, Grandma and Billy from second grade just organically went to Zoom because of the simplicity.
All right, so I'm a nutcase when it comes to this, and I assume you are as well, because I've got people pinging me on Microsoft Teams and on Google Chat and on LinkedIn and on Zoom Chat. By the way, Zoom Chat is awesome. I don't understand why people don't use it. I've got 2 or 3 groups on Zoom Chat. It's really amazing, and I use it purposely because I know that it's not as popular as some of the other chat platforms. So when I get a message, I go to look at it. But anyway, so I interoperate relatively easily. And you know what? When I'm talking to somebody, when I'm chatting with them on Microsoft Teams and I want to escalate to a video call, I press the button. You
Sure.
know, it's probably not. And again, I don't want to throw stones at anybody, but the quality is not as good as the quality that I record on Zoom. Not that it matters to anybody when you're just chatting with a friend. If you're
Yeah.
pitching to a customer or if you're recording like a webinar, yeah, I wouldn't be able to use a Microsoft recording unless I upgrade it through Handbrake or something like that, and I don't have to do that with Zoom. But there are ways of incorporating the Zoom tools to a Microsoft user. And I'd love you to give us a couple of examples of that because I know you spoke about that recently, and it's an important message that you not don't have to be in just one or the other. You can be in both.
I think people, when they view Zoom, they see it in a different lens than I'm trying to enable users to see it, or corporations and customers to see it. Is because, let's be honest, the biggest IT ecosystem in the world is Microsoft. They're the $3.2 trillion gorilla in this space. Certainly, they have Teams as a collaboration and communications platform within that. But think about all the breadth of portfolio that Microsoft has, right? From Active Directory all the way to Xbox, and they have file repositories with SharePoint and OneDrive. They have email with Exchange. They have productivity tools with Office 365. They have CRM with Dynamics 365. The point is that of course we can certainly work inside the lens of Teams if we truly want that. But all the other areas of innovation that we really coexist and integrated from the Microsoft world is really the point we're trying to make. It's not, we're not trying to replace Microsoft. That's not what we do. All the things I just talked about, Zoom doesn't do all that stuff. We are a collaboration communications platform, and we have to fit into that Microsoft ecosystem, right? And users that still need to create Word documents or Excel documents, what we've done is we've actually part of now what Microsoft calls the Microsoft Document Development Program. We're the only partner in that space. Bringing in Office 365 productivity suite inside of Zoom is a possibility now. I don't have to leave Zoom to create an Excel document. I can literally create that from Zoom. I can then share that with Team Chat, with channels and individual users. I can then store that document in SharePoint or OneDrive. Again, expanding the reach of Zoom into a Microsoft ecosystem is just really one of the few examples that we could do there.
Where do you expect, or where do you suggest that people go if they really want to get better at understanding how to use Zoom in a Microsoft environment, or how to use Microsoft within the Zoom environment?
Yeah, it goes both ways, right? Is certainly Zoom can fit into a Microsoft environment, but what about those Microsoft tools coming into Zoom as well? It's a two-way developer ecosystem, right? So we actually last year we announced that we're bringing in the Outlook client inside of Zoom. And think about that workflow. Is I'm in Zoom and I want to just read what's in my inbox or reply to an email or forward an email. In the past, I would have to leave Zoom to go to Outlook to do that. But what if you didn't? What if you can literally bring the Outlook client into Zoom, and now all those menial email tasks that you do throughout the day, you can do from the Zoom client, increasing productivity, decreasing context switching, and increasing application affinity. So selfishly, if you want to learn more about it, I selfishly have a tattooed nerd channel on YouTube where I literally go into this probably every week on how you can really utilize Microsoft and Zoom together, not separately.
All right, so you'll give me the URL for the Tattooed Nerd channel on YouTube, so people should subscribe, and I'll put it on the screen over here as soon as we're done editing it. And I will avoid the subject of the ink and the that part of your career. You can see from that on YouTube, but I will ask you about the book you just recently wrote, which again takes a lot of this knowledge base and explains it to people how to use Zoom. Can you want to tell people a little bit about it? Your cookbook?
Great question. Thank you, David. I was approached by Pact Publishing last year, and they had done some research and they had seen that there was no real, basically, a book or text on how to use these simple fundamental features and modalities inside of Zoom. Of course, obviously, there's a YouTube channel on something how to do it, or maybe there's even a white paper on Zoom on how to do it. But what about the average user or knowledge worker, information worker that wants to use Zoom beyond meetings, right? Certainly, everyone kind of knows how to use Zoom from a meetings perspective. But what about Zoom's team chat solution? What about Zoom's AI companion solution? What about Zoom webinars or advanced features? There was really no complete scope on how to do that. And so they approached me to say, hey, can you write this, what they call the ultimate Zoom cookbook? And what it is hundreds of different recipes on how to use these really cool features inside of Zoom beyond meetings to really make your life easier and take away those simple mundane tasks that you took advantage of and utilize that inside of one book.
Is it available now?
It is. It's available on Amazon and both hard text. If you can actually imagine, people still buy real books anymore. That it's available there, as well as the Kindle version as well.
Okay, that's terrific. So tell us a little bit about the features that people might not understand that you went into in the book. I mean, I guess the most important thing in the hype du jour is about AI and generative AI, and I know that Zoom has added a different flavor of AI to the Zoom tool than some of the others using. First of all, correct me if I'm wrong on any of these things, but it's aggregated, right? It's not just using one AI engine; it's using multiple engines, and it's also free. I mean, if you're paying for the Zoom service as a paying customer, there is no additional per month charge to access these AI features. Are both of those correct?
Yeah, that's both correct in that Zoom took a different tactic than everyone else, really, Google and Microsoft and Cisco, in that we wanted to democratize AI. We wanted to be able to give AI to every single user as part of our platform and our strategy. And so what we did was we included every part of AI Companion inside of every paid Zoom license. So it comes with your Zoom license. And then we took a different approach too on our modeling our LLM or our large language models, is that like a lot of the other companies, they developed either their own or they partnered with an open AI or Anthropic. But what about taking advantage of all those models? Because all those models have advantages and disadvantages. What if we can bring all those models inside of our umbrella? And of course, we have a Zoom LLM, but what about Anthropic? What about OpenAI? And then using those models to their advantage depending on the workflow. So that's what Zoom did differently than everyone else. And it's really paying off. That way we can democratize AI for every single user. And then those users can utilize AI to decrease those mundane tasks like reading a chat thread or replying to an email that's really long or summarizing a chat thread after you got back from vacation. How many times did you get back from vacation and you have a 50 email, chat thread summary and you just don't want to read all 50 chats? What if you just have AI Companion just summarize the whole thing and even compose a reply to that thing? Again, increasing your productivity and your efficiency as a user.
So you mentioned I want to try and give use cases so that people really understand it because you hear AI and some people's brain just turn off.
Yeah.
So you talked about going to the chat. You can activate it by pressing the correct click inside chat and get a summary of the chat. What are the other top two or three things that you can do with it, like very specifically in the Zoom platform? Where do you go and how do you do it?
Think about this workflow. Think about when you get an email that might be pages long, and
Right.
you certainly you do you have the time to read all that? You might, and then you might go forward. But what if you just want to reply in a way that succinctly summarizes that email and then gives you the ability to reply or create a reply without having to mundanely type all that whole reply in? You could have AI Companion literally create a reply, and then you can change the tone of it. You want it to be humorous or professional. You maybe want it to be longer or shorter. You can do all that with AI Companion within email. So think about your emails on Exchange. I'm still in the Zoom client taking advantage of AI. That's a really one simple way. Another great way that I use it all the time is creating whiteboards. I think the hardest part for me is when I see a blank whiteboard, I don't even know where to begin to start drawing a whiteboard. What if I could just ask AI Companion, hey, I want to create a whiteboard on the top 10 presentation skills. I could spend 13, 15, 20 minutes creating that, or AI Companion could literally just do that on the fly and create that whiteboard in seconds. And then I could, obviously modify it and change it as I see fit to fit my workflow. But now I've just saved myself 10, 15 minutes.
Okay. That's a good practical application. And the one thing that I've said that I think Zoom gets right is that, if we use AI as a tool, it's cool and it's helpful. If we use AI as something we're depending on in our business practice, that's not very smart because it still gets things wrong. So I like the idea that you can go in, that you can have it write for you, you can have it summarized for you, but then you read it and edit it and
Yeah.
make sure that it's actually correct. And as long as you're using it that way, boy, I've been able to do some amazing things with some of the large language models that are out there, and certainly with Zoom. So that's really cool. So What can we expect? I know we're coming up on a Zoomtopia in probably a couple of months. What can we expect in terms of any announcements from Zoom without revealing anything that's NDA? Any directions you want to talk about toward the end of the year?
I think you're going to see some announcements. Shockingly, they're going to be around AI, David, as we push forward. And I know that's a crazy, crazy idea, but look for other things. And we kind of maybe gave you a little sneak peek at Enterprise Connect when it comes to the Microsoft Document Developer Program, creating the more effective workflow with Office 365 documents inside of Zoom, as well as some workspace reservations and visitor kiosk inside of Outlook as well, utilizing the Zoom platform. I know we gave a little bit of a sneak peek, but expect a lot more announcements around Zoomtopia in those areas.
Yeah, and it is really the what you do in terms of telephones and mobiles and wayfinding in terms of hot desking and support is really very unique in the industry. It's a very complete solution. So that'll be interesting to see if you kind of push some of that into the Microsoft world.
Well, one of the biggest problems in the IT industry today, I think, is there was a study that said the average organization has around 231 apps available to an end user. What if we can collapse those? What if we can create those into one single client and one single administration platform where we can increase users' ability to do everything from one client, as well as increase administrators and operations inside of one single admin portal? That's really our goal, is really to decrease that TCO of the overall IT industry and collapse all those tools into one.
That sounds great. If somebody wants more information about you or more information, or reach out to you or more information about Zoom, what are the links? What do you suggest?
Probably the first way is probably LinkedIn. It's probably the easiest way to just to get a hold of me, DM me right from there. I post probably 2 or 3 videos a week on LinkedIn, obviously about Zoom and a lot about Zoom and Microsoft and about just other ecosystems that we integrate with, right? We integrate into Google as well as Apple as well. So it's not just a single one ecosystem, it's multiple ecosystems. We're kind of agnostic in that space. Second, I thought I mentioned it before, Tattoo Nerd on YouTube. I produce a lot of videos on there, really just discussing not only Zoom, but the overall UCaaS industry as well.
Okay, that's terrific. And if somebody wants to reach out to Zoom, it's just zoom.us or zoom.com now.
It is. Well, you were paying attention. Yeah, it's patrick.kelley@zoom.com is our new email moniker.
Terrific. Patrick, thank you very much for the time. I really appreciate it. And thank you very much for watching every week. We appreciate that as well. We'll have a great week and we'll see you next week.